All right, sixth grade, we finished up chapter 1 of health, and today we are starting on chapter 2. I have to say that I love all of your health posters. You guys did amazing for just what work you had at home. I was super proud of them. Tomorrow, I'm going to show each and every one of them so you can see everybody's posters. So make sure you get on tomorrow for that. And wow, great job, great job. Can't wait to share them with you. We're going to open up first in health to pages 28. Don't forget to be listening on YouTube each day for any highlights that we do. And again, I wish that we were in class together for this because Sister McFadden was coming in and giving us a lesson. You know, she's one of the nurses that works at our church. She was going to give us a first aid lesson. But unfortunately, we are doing distance learning, and so we can't have field trips at this time, or we can't have guests, and that's a little disappointing. But let's go ahead and follow along. This is very important for all of you to read because accidents happen around us all the time. You could be out with playing with your friends, and one of your friends get hurt. You could be at a store, and an elderly person possibly maybe trip and fall. Or it's just good to know how we need to handle situations like this. So I think this is great information for all of you to know. Let's go ahead and pick up to page 28. First steps of first aid. How do you stop a wound from bleeding? What should you do when you have a leg cramp? Where do you place a splint for a broken shin bone? What can you do for a younger brother or sister who has swallowed poison? And you think, oh my goodness, they would never do that. Those things happen. In fact, I'm going to tell a little story on Lucas for you. When Lucas was, I don't know, he was little, 2 or 3 at the most probably, he got into his mom's perfume and decided to drink it. Yeah, I don't know why, but you know, Lucas just decided to do this. So he did drink her perfume. Well, of course, his mom was very concerned with what was inside of his body now. And I guess perfume can be poisonous because he did have to go to Children's Hospital. But thankfully, Lucas was okay, and he has learned his lesson and no longer drinks perfume. So that's good. But yes, people do, especially little children, do swallow things that are not good for them. So sometimes you do need to know how to call poison control. You may someday find yourself in an emergency situation where you will need to recognize various medical problems, decide which condition to treat, and know how to treat them until medical help arrives. First aid, highlight this. First aid, the emergency care given to a person who is injured or who suddenly becomes ill. Stop highlighting there. Is not a skill that only doctors and trained medical workers should learn. It is important for you to know first aid skills also, because a minor injury can sometimes become major if no first aid or improper first aid is given. And here is a tickle your funny bone. What should you give an alligator that needs help? Ha ha ha. You should give him Gatorade. First aid, emergency care. Olivia trips on the sidewalk and falls, skinning her hands and knees. While eating an apple, Mrs. Jones begins to choke and gasp for breath. If you were to see both of these incidents happening at the same time, who would you help first? Because Olivia's injury is only minor and can be cared for later, you should assist Mrs. Jones first. Choking and gasping for breath indicate a medical emergency. Without receiving immediate attention, Mrs. Jones might choke to death. Emergency personnel. Next column. A medical emergency is any kind of sickness or injury requiring immediate attention. Any medical emergency that is not treated immediately could result in a permanent disability or even death for the victim. My goodness, my boys have broken every bone imaginable in their bodies. And sometimes, I got so tired of them breaking bones, sometimes I would say, I think it's just a sprain. Let's just not go to the emergency room. Let's just not go to the hospital this time. And my husband would always remind me, If it is broken, then it could cause some permanent disability later. So off we would go for the millionth time to the emergency room. In a medical emergency, first aid is the care given to a victim until qualified medical help arrives, whether that help be a doctor or an ambulance team who will transport the victim to a hospital. An ambulance worker is trained as an emergency medical technician or as a paramedic for various medical emergencies. An emergency medical technician, also called EMT, receives special training in first aid and rescue techniques. A paramedic, a little bit different, receives the same training as an EMT, along with extra courses in which he learns to perform advanced life-saving procedures. Going on down to basic rules. Also, one thing that I want to talk to you about EMTs and paramedics, if anything ever happens in your home, or some of you have asthma. I know we have had EMTs in our home for several times due to Riley's asthma when he was younger. We've had paramedics and EMTs in our home several times for Avery, not too long ago, as a matter of fact. But always remember that they are certainly there to help you. They will come in your home. They will ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid of them. They are amazing people with an amazing medical mind, and they're going to help you and get you to the hospital as quickly as possible if need be, or your family member. Always remember that they are there to help. No reason to fear anything that they want to do, because they're going to help you. Basic rules. Many people do not know how to act in an emergency situation. They become nervous and unsure of themselves. And you know what? That is completely normal. It's scary to us. It's things we've never been through before. And yes, we are unsure of what to do. Although this is normal, it can be harmful, however. Mistakes relating to first aid care can make the difference between life and death for the accident victim. Following a few simple but very important guidelines can help you handle a medical emergency correctly. And here's what I want to say before I say anything else. If you are in a medical emergency, or someone in your family is, the very first thing that you can automatically do very quickly and in your own mind is pray. Lord, help me in this situation. Help me to know what to do. Help me to remain calm. Lead me and guide me. And you know what? He is with us in those instances. There are so many times that we have had medical emergencies, and I have felt the presence of the Lord in my home because I have just quickly called on him. That's all we have to do. That's not in your book, but that's just from your teacher. Safety tips. Those who know first aid become more safety conscious. You should always dial 911 first in an emergency. If you're having an emergency, if your parent is having an emergency, don't think, oh, I might get in trouble if I call. No, just be on the safe side. Let's go up to the second column, which is one of our most important rules. Keep calm. If you stay calm while helping the victim, he will be better able to remain calm and cooperative himself. That is one thing that when Riley was a baby and a toddler that the doctor really tried to teach me, and he finally did get it through my head. He would say, Mama, the calmer you are, the calmer that your boy is going to be during his asthma attack. Keeping the victim from becoming anxious or excited could make a difference in the extent of danger from his injury. Plan quickly what you need to do. As you learn how to care for specific illnesses and injuries throughout this chapter, review them continually so that you will be prepared should your help be needed. Get professional help. Reaching help quickly could save a life. Therefore, it is important that you know how to get help should an emergency situation arise. Keep a list of emergency numbers close to the telephone where it will be readily available if you ever need to use it. We don't have our phones really plugged into our walls anymore. So if you don't know how to look up contacts on your parents' phone for emergencies, then make sure they have a list around somewhere. Or let them teach you how to find the emergency numbers in their phone. Emergency numbers would be like your grandmother's phone number, or someone that you could call to help an adult in any situation. Discuss with your parents what numbers should be listed, such as 911, your parents' numbers at work, a neighbor, a grandparent, etc. Encourage the injured person. And this scripture comes right from our Bible. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pictures of silver. That's kind of describing a picture that might be hanging on the wall. And they are maybe in a silver bowl and they're golden apples and you're looking at it. And if you speak a kind word or the correct wording, it kind of gives you that same feeling. Let the victim know that help is on the way and try to make them as comfortable as possible. Your care and concern for someone in pain can give him hope during his unfortunate circumstances. I'm on page 30, make it your goal to learn and follow basic guidelines for first aid care. These guidelines will help you develop confidence in knowing how to care for a person in an emergency and will also help you to be reassuring to the injured person. There's a safety tip here. It says, knowing first aid will help prepare you to give immediate temporary care to accident victims. Remember, no first aid is better than improper first aid. So if you think, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, just make sure the patient is comfortable and you're waiting on help. We're going to go to sports aid personal care next, which is so important because many of you are in sports. And I wish we were in our spring sports right now, but many of you will continue to be in sports over the years, and sports is unfortunately a place where many injuries happen, so this is going to be good information for you to know. We are done with health today. Let me double check your syllabus. You do not have any homework in health. There is art underneath your syllabus. I'm going to be showing you how to do the art project that I sent home. It's just a fun art project. I like doing it. Isabella's going to do one with me, and we're going to video that, and I will have that ready for you on Tuesday. You will need the glue that I sent home, the salt, and if you had a water paint set at school, I sent it home with you. Caitlin, Hannah, I sent Landry's home with you because I couldn't find yours. I don't think it had a paintbrush in it, and Ariana, I could not find a paintbrush for yours. So if either one of you have paintbrushes to use at home for that, some of you I know did not have a watercolor set, so I did not have one that I could send. If you don't have a paintbrush in yours, you might be able to use Q-tips if you don't have any at home either. But hopefully you have a paintbrush somewhere at home. So I'll show you that tomorrow. Also, I put 2 pieces of white paper in your packet that will also be for our art. One is just in case you make a mistake, and there's an extra one in case you do. We will be going into how to eat fried worms, our next few chapters in there. 6th grade, in your packet that you received on Friday, you should have received a worksheet 45. At the top it says God's Gift of Language C, and that's what we're working on today in language. And yes, it looks very similar to your language test because that's what it is, but I'm not grading it as a test. I'm only grading it as a worksheet, but on the bottom it will say page 45. It is stapled and has 2 pages to it. So let's go through this. Again, it will not be graded as a test. You are welcome to go back and look in your book for anything that you want to look up for help. In fact, I recommend it so that you can get an awesome grade on this. I just want to go over directions with you in case you haven't done it yet. I know some of you are working ahead, and that is fine. I just do want to remind you that these videos are here to help you. Pronoun case on page 45. Change the form of the pronoun in these parentheses. Sorry, let me open up to another book here. If necessary to make it fit in the incomplete sentence, write the correct pronoun in the blank. And I want to do 45 with you because you will be using the form of we. The pronoun we in both of these blanks in different forms. Number 1, blank friends will meet blank at the airport. You're not going to put in we in both of those blanks. We friends will meet we at the airport. No, you're going to put forms of that pronoun. And you can look through your book to see what forms that you can find, what forms are listed with we. So on number 1, your correct answer is going to be our friends will meet us at the airport. So that gives you a little example of how that's going to be. On section 1. Section 2 is going to be subject and verb agreement. Please read the directions carefully on this. It says to, number 1, underline each subject. If you need to underline those directions to help you remember to do that, please do so. Many of you forget to do that on these worksheets. Number 2, write the correct verb or contraction in the blank. And they've given you 2 choices there, so you'll fill in which one you think is the correct one. Let's do number 1 together. One of my favorite foods is or are spaghetti. Don't forget, if you have a plural noun, you want a plural subject, a plural verb. I'm going to say that again. If you have a plural noun, you want a plural verb. If you have a singular subject, you want a singular verb. What is our subject here? Now, be careful. It's not of my favorite foods, because what is that? That's a prepositional phrase. It starts with of. So your subject's going to be one. So we're underlining one. Now, that totally tells us right there, one, that we're talking about a singular noun. So our singular subject is going to be what? Is. One of my favorite foods is spaghetti. Go ahead and do 2 through 10, underlining your subject, choosing the correct verb or contraction. On the next page, using pronouns correctly. 2 directions on this. Number 1, write correct in the blank if the pronouns in the sentences are correct. Part 2, if the sentence contains a pronoun error, circle the error and write the correct pronoun in the blank. So there's 2 parts to part 2. Number 1, again, write correct in the blank if pronouns in the sentences are correct. Number 2, if the sentence contains a pronoun error, circle the error and write the correct pronoun in the blank. Let's do number 1 as an example to help you out. And I will give you a hint on this, that out of the 7 that are in section 4, you have 2 that are correct. Number 1, my little brother and sister set the table themselves. Our incorrect pronoun is themselves, therefore we will circle it and put the correct form in the blank, which is themselves. My little brother and sister set the table by themselves. I hope everybody understands that. Sentences at the bottom. Number 1, write an interrogative sentence. This is an easy one. In fact, I cut out half of the rest of the question there. If you don't know what an interrogative sentence is, then I'm telling you to go back to the beginning of your book and find out so that you can get credit for that. Write an interrogative sentence. I will be looking for correct punctuation, capitalization, all that good stuff. Number 2, write a compound sentence. Again, if you don't remember what that is, go back and look in your book. We went over and over and over it in the first semester. Write a compound sentence containing the word it's. Now, be careful here. The word it's is showing possession even though it does not have a contraction. The only time or an apostrophe, the only time that we put an apostrophe in its is if it is a contraction, which is it apostrophe s. So make sure you're using your it's in possessive form there. Good luck on that worksheet. Again, use your book to help you. And that is all that you have for language today. Once you finish this worksheet, put it back in your folder so that you will be ready to turn it in on Friday. Tomorrow we will be beginning adjectives. You will need to watch all of tomorrow's lesson on YouTube. I will be telling you what your assignment is on YouTube for tomorrow's language lesson. And next we will be going into, let's do health next. I will see you in health. All right, we are in How to Eat Fried Worms, and we are actually getting very close to finishing the book. We should finish it tomorrow, so that's exciting. We're going to get to find out. Moved upstairs for a few minutes. I'm in Isabella's room because it's one of the prettier rooms in the house. And I needed to come upstairs for a few minutes. So we are on chapter 24, and let's just kind of recap about what is happening. Alan took Billy to the ball game, fed Billy a whole bunch of snacks. Billy got tired from all the sugar and kind of a little sicky feeling. They got home late at night, so Alan's dad carried Billy up to the door. Billy's dad was getting ready to put him to bed, and he kind of woke up, and Billy's dad said, "So is this part of the bet?" So when he woke up, Billy realized he had not eaten his worm. He and the other boy, Joe, went to wake up Alan and Tom. They woke up the entire neighborhood with a loudspeaker, and he ate the worm. And so this is where we're picking up at the next day. Alan is furious because Alan's dad said they can't do anything to retaliate. This is picking up the next day. "You know what you are," said Alan, his nose almost touching Billy's. "You're a jerk." "You're another," sneered Billy through clenched teeth, "and a cheating, lying, dirty, snot-nosed, cheating, lying one." "And if you say 2 more words," said Alan, "you know what? I'll beat your head in." Ooh, they're getting vicious. Billy breathed hard. "I'm right behind you," muttered Tom, peering grimly over Billy's shoulder, his fists clenched. "Yeah," said Joe from behind Alan. "So what? We can lick both of you with our hands tied behind our backs and paper bags over our heads. You couldn't lick a flea." And back in the olden days, lick meant punch. Yeah. All of a sudden you hear the author here tried to make sounds of fighting. This is the sounds that he explained it as: spiffle, whack, thump, someone's choking, no fair, thwomp, gouge. Joe crawled off behind a tree, his nose bleeding. Whomp, he's pulling hair, he's scratching. Twist, twist. Alan crawled, weeping behind a bush. Thump, whack. Billy, it's just you and me. Where are the others? Tom and Billy untangled and sat up, bruised, scratched, dusty, shirts torn, hair tousled. Tom's nose was bleeding and Billy's shoe had come off. Na, 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 sassed Alan and Joe from behind the tree. Billy started to shake his fist at them and then clambered up, but sank back down. Tom panted beside him, blurry-eyed. Are you all worn out? Can't fight anymore? Alan scooped up a handful of mud and flung it at Tom and Billy. Then Joe did the same. Billy and Tom scrambled up and pelted back. Mud splattered against trees and bushes. Alan began to cry. A rock hit Billy over the eye. He sat down backward in the mud, covering his head with his arms, sobbing. Joe and Tom stopped throwing. Joe grabbed Alan. Come on. Tom knelt beside Billy. Let me see, Billy. Is it bad? Take your arm away so I can see. He tried to pull Billy's arms apart. Billy wrenched away. Come on, said Tom in a scared voice. I'll take you home. Come on, your mother can take you to the doctor. This is one of those circumstances that we just talked about in health. Chapter 30, the Peace Treaty. Alan and Joe sat on the sofa, Tom and Billy on 2 straight chairs opposite them. Now, said Alan's father, what's this all about? The 4 boys all began talking at once, accusing, recounting, explaining. All right, said Alan's father after a while, that's enough. Now we know it's got something to do with this bet Alan and Billy made, but Mr. O'Hare and I aren't going to get involved in that. You'll have to settle that one among yourselves. You 4 boys have been friends too long to start fighting now, said Mr. O'Hare. You really hurt each other. Look at yourselves. Your faces are all bruised and muddy. Talk it over, work things out, and then you can shake hands and be friends again. Joe muttered under his breath, I couldn't be friends with those rats. We'll be out in the kitchen, said Alan's father. When you've settled it, call us and we'll all go down to Friendly's for some ice cream, okay? Billy and Alan and Tom nodded. The 2 fathers left the room. The boys gazed silently at each other. After a while, Alan said, It wasn't us that scratched Tom. Billy did it. Another silence. Did you have stitches? Billy asked Alan. No, did you? Billy shook his head. More silence. You tried to cheat, said Billy. That wasn't cheating. We were just trying to trick you. Yeah, but before that, when you glued the 2 worms together, That was cheating. You would have cheated too if you'd been losing. Billy thought about it. Okay, but look, no more cheating. I've already eaten 13 worms. You know I can eat 2 more. If I buy George Cunningham's brother's mini bike, we can all use it. We'll all have fun with it. Joe and Alan glanced at each other. Okay, said Joe. You win. He wins, Alan. Yeah, but what's the use, said Joe. We've tried everything. I'm sick of it. We've done nothing else for almost 2 weeks. Alan scratched his eyebrow, glancing at Joe. Yeah, but come on. At least we'll get a milkshake out of it. Chapter 31. Billy lifted the worm out of the frying pan with the cooking tongs and curled it back and forth on his peanut butter sandwich. I bet they try something, he said. Joe won't give up. Alan might, but Joe won't. Tom was carving his initials in the leg of the kitchen table. Yeah, but it's not Joe's bet. What does he care? Just the same, I bet he tries something. Billy sat down at the table, turning the sandwich this way and that, looking for the best spot to take the first bite. Emily came in from the dining room. You and Mom got a letter. Chewing, Billy opened it. And the letter has an address up at the top that says Charles M. McGrath, M.D., 34 Beechwood Drive, Grattan, New York, midnight, August 15th, 1973. Now, this was from, if you'll remember, Charles M. McGrath was Billy's doctor that that Billy's mother called every time she found out he was eating a worm. Mrs. John Forrester, 7 Manchester Road, East Grattan, New York. Dear Mrs. Forrester, I have just made a distressing discovery. And it has something scribbled out, and I can't see what it says, but it says, instead of the scribbled out words, it says, while I was leafing through a medical journal before going up to bed, I noticed an article entitled Poisons in the Home Garden, a subject which necessarily fascinates me. As I glanced through the article, a phase caught my eye. Lumbricus terrestris, the common earthworm. I read on. Mrs. Forrester, let me assure you, first of all, that there is no cause for undue alarm. However, you will, I am sure, be concerned to learn that, especially in the months of July and August, parents must beware of the common earthworm. Some varieties, which are known to secrete a substance which, though not malignant to the skin, it's sometimes harmful if swallowed. Dr. A.C. Roosevelt of Hyde Park, New York, reports that 10% of the boys studied reported no ill effects except induced paralysis of the lower Fulmar region. 40% reported abdominal cramping, triple vision lasting for 2 to 3 years and impairing school performance, and extreme lassitude. Autopsy reports have not yet been received on the remaining 50%, and so no final conclusions can be drawn, but extreme caution is urged since the blackened and pimply faces of the subjects lead one to suspect the worst. Mrs. Forrester, as your friend and family physician, I would strongly recommend that your son, William, eat no more worms until I return on Thursday from New York City and can give him a thorough examination. Yours sincerely, Charles McGrath. Now, one thing that I did notice in this letter is that there were several little typos. It was shown that it was typed, so I'm just wondering about it. I'll just leave it there. So we're going to open up tomorrow, and I'm hoping, let me check. We might finish tomorrow, if not the next day. So I will tell you that when Billy read this letter, he did get very nervous. So that's where we're going to leave it. So we will see. And we are finishing up with history next. On your syllabus for history, it says to read pages 225 to 226. I'm going to have you do that reading on your own today because that is a very short reading. You will have a few highlights on that. I'm opening up to it right now. 225 to 226. You'll have a few highlights on that I'm going to give you tomorrow, and I also want to discuss a little bit about the Great Depression with you tomorrow. Very interesting time. Make sure you're read up on that so we can discuss that tomorrow. You have a worksheet to do today, which is worksheet page 51 at the bottom. You are welcome to go back and use your book to look up those answers. I'm encouraging you to do that so that you can get a great grade on that. Also, you have a on your syllabus, you will see that you have a current event due on Thursday. I was supposed to put in a worksheet. That's the only thing I forgot this week, so I did a little bit better this week. I was supposed to put in a worksheet for that. I did not. I'm going to send out on Jupiter tomorrow, maybe even later today, the form that we used in the classroom with your source and your topic and your 3 important facts. We're doing that exact same thing, but I will send that on Jupiter so you will know exactly what I'm looking for a 100%. And that is due on, well, actually it's on, I'm sorry, I keep saying Thursday. It's on your syllabus for Wednesday, but you will need to put it in your packet for me to grade over the weekend on Friday. So, and your topic for that is anything on COVID-19. Oh my goodness, there are so many things that you could look up on that. Positive things, what families are doing right now during COVID-19. It doesn't have to be something positive, just something that's of an interest to you concerning this time. It can be from a newspaper, a magazine, from the internet, from an internet site just off of your phone, off of your computer, whatever is available to you. You do not have to print off the hard copy, but if you do, it is 5 points extra credit. If you cut the article out of a newspaper or magazine, if that's where you get it, it is also 5 points extra credit. Don't forget it has to be within the past 2 weeks, following the same exact rules as our current events when we were in school. I will have that on Jupiter for you of the format that we will be needing. So get that history done, get that worksheet done, and this is your last class of the day. I will see you tomorrow on Tuesday, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.